This is the spec for the first basic module on absolute value equations. Absolute value equations 1. And this is going to look a lot like level 3 linear equations, with the one difference being that instead of having an x, you have an absolute value of x. So these problems might look like 5 times, so we'll say solve for x, and we'll write something like, or we'll have something like 5 times the absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to negative 3 times the absolute value of x. Negative 3, let's say plus 7. And from the first several steps is going to look just like level 3 linear equations. You can borrow a lot of code from that. And then the last step will actually have to deal with the absolute value when we solve for absolute value of x is equal to something. So the first thing we would say maybe is add 3 times the absolute value of x to both sides. And so we get 8 absolute value of x. You really just do it exactly the way level 3 linear equations did it, except with the absolute value of x. So you get 8 absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to 7. Next hint, subtract 3 from both sides. Subtract 3 from both sides. And then you get 8 times the absolute value of x is equal to 4. And then you say divide both sides. Divide both sides by 8. And then you get absolute value of x is equal to 1/2. And then this next step is the one where the absolute value kind of comes in play. And so you say, not negative 1/2 is equal to 1/2. And then the last step says, I mean, you could think about the wording you say. You could say x is equal to, and I'll give more of the intuition in the videos anyway. So then you could say, so x is equal to 1/2, or x is equal to negative 1/2. So in that last step, I think this is a pretty easy leap. The absolute value of something is equal to 1/2. That something is either 1/2 or negative 1/2. And you put all of the choices here. Now, in this equation, it would be good to have a no solution. And so on every problem, so one of the choices would be could be x is equal to 1/2 or negative 1/2. That would obviously be the correct choice. We could also have a no solution over here. And obviously that's the incorrect choice in this circumstance. But it would have been the correct solution if instead of a plus 7, this was a minus 7. Let me just clear that out. So let me just clear that. Let me clear. If this was a minus 7, and if this was a minus 3, then you have 8x minus 3 is equal to negative 7. And you add 3 to both sides, and then you get 8x is equal to negative 4. This would be negative 1/2. And then over here, the hint would be the absolute value can never be negative. Can never be negative. So there is no solution. So that would be the circumstance in that situation. So just like level 3 linear equations, except instead of an x, you have an absolute value of x. The last step, you either go from here to say, hey, there's no solution. Absolute value of x can't be negative. Or you say, hey, if absolute value of x is equal to a positive number, then that x could be either the positive or the negative version of the number, just like we did just now. So hopefully that explains this module reasonably well.